It's pretty wild when you stop and think about it, but brain injuries, they're some of the most serious injuries out there. Like, they're among the most likely to result in death or, a permanent disability. And it's not limited to any specific type of accident or any one part of the world, right? We're talking about a global issue here.
Yeah, the global scale of brain injury is really striking. I mean, we're talking about the leading cause of death and disability worldwide.
Yeah.
That's huge. It's a major challenge for healthcare systems everywhere. And of course, the impact on individual lives is immeasurable.
And what's interesting? Something I learned recently is that traumatic brain injury, in TDI, is actually the leading cause of seizure disorders. It's a pretty surprising link, but it just goes to show you how a single injury can have really long-lasting effects.
Oh, absolutely. And it's often the kind of damage you can't see with the naked eye, the microscopic scarring and disruption of neural pathways that leads to these long-term neurological issues. That's why research into the mechanisms of brain injury is so vital for developing effective treatments.
So today we're going deep on this topic. We've been poring over info from the International Brain Injury Association, and we want to break down the most critical information about the scope of brain injuries, what causes them, and the ripple effects they have. Our mission is to help you grasp why this is such a significant public health concern.
Yeah, it's crucial to understand the magnitude of this issue. And to get a clearer picture, maybe we should zoom in on the situation in the United States specifically. The annual statistics there are pretty eye-opening.
Yeah, let's talk U.S. numbers.
Right.
Because it is kind of alarming when you realize that roughly 1 million Americans are treated and released from emergency departments each year due to TBI. That's a staggering number, like 1 million people every year experiencing a significant head injury.
Right. It really puts into perspective just how common these injuries are. And of course, not all brain injuries are the same. So beyond those who are treated and released from the ER, a significant number require more intensive care. About 230,000 individuals are hospitalized annually due to TBI, and thankfully they survive. But that number represents a level of injury that necessitates serious medical intervention.
And even when people survive, they can be left with lasting challenges. An estimated 80,000 people are discharged from hospitals each year with some kind of disability related to their TBI. And these are not insignificant disabilities. They can have a profound impact on daily life.
Absolutely. We're talking about impairments that can affect physical abilities, thinking skills, emotional well-being, pretty much every aspect of life. And sadly, it doesn't stop there. Around 50,000 people in the U.S. die from TBI each year. It's a stark reminder of just how serious these injuries can be.
When you add all those numbers together, the ER visits, the hospitalizations, the disabilities, the fatalities, the long-term impact on society becomes really clear. An estimated 5.3 million Americans are currently living with a TBI-related disability. That's a significant portion of the population grappling with the ongoing effects.
It's a powerful illustration of how pervasive and lasting this issue is. And when we look at who's most affected, a consistent trend emerges. Studies show that males are significantly more likely than females to experience a TBI. Now, why might that be, do you think?
Well, there's often this idea that young men tend to engage in more risk-taking behavior. And maybe they're also more likely to be involved in certain types of accidents,
Yeah.
like those related to vehicles or contact sports. What do the studies say about that?
Yeah, those are certainly factors. And when we look at age groups, the highest incidence of TBI occurs between the ages of 15 and 24. Makes sense, right? It's a time of increased independence, driving, sports, all that. But it's really important to remember that very young children, those under 5, and older adults over 75 are also at elevated risk for TBI. And the reasons behind those injuries often differ quite a bit. For instance, in someone over 75, what might be a common cause of a TBI?
Well, falls are a major concern for older adults. You hear about that all the time. Is that a contributing factor here?
You got it. Falls are the #1 cause of TBI in those 65 and older. So fall prevention strategies for seniors, things like improving balance and making home environments safer, those are crucial. And for the under 65 crowd, as we mentioned, transportation accidents are the leading cause. This emphasizes the need for road safety measures and continued public awareness campaigns. Now, this is not just a U.S. problem, is it? This is a global health issue.
Oh, absolutely. To broaden the perspective, in the European Union alone, brain injury leads to 1 million hospital admissions every year. That's just one region. It really puts the global scale into perspective. So we've talked about how common brain injuries are. Let's dive into the causes. What are the main things that lead to these traumatic brain injuries?
Well, there are a lot of ways a TBI can happen, but motor vehicle crashes are a major culprit. They account for a whopping 50% of all TBIs. We're talking about everything from car accidents and truck collisions to motorcycle crashes, bicycle accidents, pedestrian injuries, you name it. That's half of all TBIs right there.
Hmm.
Why do you think motor vehicle crashes are such a big contributor?
Oh, there are so many factors at play, Speeding, distracted, driving under the influence. It's a complex issue with a lot of contributing elements. But, as we mentioned earlier, age plays a role in the leading causes. Can you expand on that a bit?
Sure. As we talked about, falls are the primary culprit for those 65 and older. And for the younger crowd, under 65, it's those transportation-related accidents. But beyond those top causes, there are other factors we need to consider. What comes to mind?
Well, sports injuries, especially concussions, are a big topic these days. How much do they contribute to the overall numbers?
Sports-related brain injuries are a significant concern, no doubt. It's estimated that around 300,000 sports-related brain injuries occur annually in the U.S. And while contact sports like football and hockey get a lot of attention, even things like skiing and ice skating contribute a significant chunk, about 20,000 injuries a year. So whether it's a hard hit on the field or a nasty fall on the ice, these activities can definitely lead to TBI. So we've talked about how common these injuries are and what causes them. Now let's talk about the impact. What kinds of consequences can someone face after a brain injury?
Yeah, that's a key point. It's not just about the initial injury itself, it's about the potential for lasting effects. What kinds of impairments can occur?
That's really important to understand because the effects of brain injury can be incredibly varied. We're talking about a wide spectrum of impairments that can affect a person's physical abilities, things like motor skills and coordination, their cognitive function like memory, attention, problem solving, and even their emotional and behavioral well-being, potentially leading to personality changes, mood swings, increased irritability, you name it.
And these effects, they don't always show up right away, right? Some are immediate, like with the concussion, but others can linger or even be permanent.
Exactly. The severity of the impairments can range from very subtle changes that might be easy to miss to really debilitating issues that drastically impact a person's ability to function in everyday life. And as we mentioned earlier, it's important to remember that brain injury can also increase the risk of developing seizure disorders. So we're looking at a really broad range of potential long-term health challenges.
It's clear that a brain injury isn't just a one-time event. It can have these significant, long-lasting ripples throughout a person's life.
Absolutely. When you consider the sheer number of people affected and the wide range of consequences, many of which can be long-term, it becomes really clear that brain injury is a major public health issue, one that demands attention and resources.
And that's why ongoing research is so crucial, right? To better understand how these injuries happen, how they affect the brain, and how we can develop more effective ways to prevent them, treat them, and help people recover.
You're absolutely right. There's a constant need for more research to track the trends, to develop and implement better prevention programs focused on specific risks, and to advance medical treatments and therapies to improve outcomes for people who have experienced a TBI. It's a complex challenge that requires a multifaceted approach.
It's fascinating to think that the World Health Organization recognized the significance of this issue way back in 1993. They actually established standards for tracking central nervous system injuries globally back then.
Yeah, that highlights how long this has been on the radar as a major public health issue. Establishing those tracking standards was a big step toward understanding the global scale and impact of brain injury.
So to sum things up for our listeners, we've seen that brain injury is a truly global health issue with staggering numbers in terms of incidents, disabilities, and fatalities.
Yeah.
It affects people across the age spectrum, although certain groups are more vulnerable, and the causes are diverse, ranging from motor vehicle accidents to falls and sports injuries.
And as we've discussed, the consequences are equally wide-ranging, impacting physical, cognitive, and emotional well-being. The potential for long-term disabilities and an increased risk of conditions like seizure disorders really underscores the need for continued research, robust prevention efforts, and advancements in treatment and rehabilitation to lessen this substantial global burden.
So, given the widespread prevalence and the often devastating consequences of brain injuries, what do you think are the most impactful areas for future research and prevention efforts? Like, where should we be focusing our energy to make a real difference in reducing this global burden? That's something worth pondering, I think.
It really is. And I think it's a question we all need to be asking ourselves.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. We hope you found this exploration informative and thought-provoking.
Absolutely. Until next time.